right, Conor McGregor pulls out first time in his career of a fight. Supposed to be headliner of 303, McGregor's return versus Michael Chandler. Obviously, things happen. We have a new main event now. The co-main event also got pulled. So, in
Things
honor,
happen.
both of those fights getting canceled. Both on short notice, about 2-3 weeks. Our top 5 this week is going to be right on theme. Top 5 canceled fights. Alex, let's jump into it. I think I have the first pick.
You do.
And I think I got to go with the one. This is legendary in how many times, not only that this fight got canceled, but in the prime of their careers, these were two of the baddest guys in the UFC, most feared guys in the UFC. My number 1 pick is going to be Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tony Ferguson. I think it got canceled 5 times.
5 total times. Started in 2015, got canceled 4 times after that.
One of them,
they alternated. It
reasons.
was like injury for one for each, and then one was Khabib had to be hospitalized for weight cut.
Yeah, one was that.
And then another one was Ferguson injury. So it's kind of like
Tony Ferguson one time, the week of the fight, tripped over a cord doing an interview at Fox Sports and tore his ACL. Yeah. And then by the time, at one point, Tony Ferguson, I think, had 13 straight wins, 13 straight wins.
And he was fine. They were scheduled, because it was so many times, they were scheduled to fight in the height of when they were at their best.
Yes, he was the boogeyman. He was the guy. He was so unorthodox. Everybody was afraid of him at this point. He's the biggest what if is what if Khabib would have fought him in his prime. I think it's one that UFC fans, especially online, they still talk about, the one that got away. So my number 1 is going to be Khabib, Tony Ferguson.
That is a very good pick, and rightfully so. It's a fight that, like you said, fans on either side would love to have seen. Weren't robbed of it by any standpoint because both fighters, had crazy good careers either way. But it's definitely would have been one of those great fights.
I think it was the one that Tony Ferguson, and considering his streak, he never got the undisputed title shot, and that would have been the one.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my number 1 pick. What you got?
I'm gonna take your Khabib and see you with another Khabib. Khabib versus Holloway.
Khabib Holloway, yes. Another fight that got pulled because Holloway's weight cut.
Yeah, this was Holloway's weight cut, not
It was a short notice one. I think this was actually one of the ones that was supposed to be in place of Tony Ferguson.
If I was a gambling man or a guessing man, that would be a fine guess because of how many times the previous fight was scheduled. Khabib versus Holloway, that's another one that fight fans, especially if we look back on Holloway in the past few years especially, that would be a legendary fight, a chance to give Khabib his first career loss that we never got to see. These two, I think they go to the top of the list because Khabib retired on top, 29-0. He retired without ever losing. He lost one round.
And Holloway's the BMF.
And Holloway's the BMF, just knocked Gaethje out cold. It's one of those fights that would have been great regardless of win.
I like that pick. I think it's a little high for my list, but I like the pick.
That's fine.
I wish I would have seen that fight.
Right. And that's kind of where, whenever I saw the fights that were canceled, that's when I chose and what made it on my list. It's like, damn, I wish I could have seen that fight.
Yeah.
My next one, I've got to go with Whitaker versus Bisping.
Whitaker Bisping.
That would have been a legendary fight. It was canceled versus due to Bisping injuring his elbow. It was in 2015 when Bisping was still on top. So it wasn't, like on his end when he was losing a couple fights in a row before he left or before he retired. This would have been like a perfect fight to see. Whitaker versus Bisping. We could have seen a change hands, title change hands. We could have seen a very good fight play out, and we never got to see it. They talked about it this past weekend.
They did.
After Whitaker's win.
Rob, I would have loved to see that fight too. Both guys bad motherfuckers. We know who Bisping is. Robert Whitaker just showed us again who he is this weekend.
Absolutely.
That's a fight that got away. I would have loved to see that.
What's your next pick, sir, for your number 2 pick?
So my number 2 pick, this is going to be my guest pick. I told my beautiful girlfriend, Clara, who's in the other room.
Shout out.
I told her the top 5 of this week. She's not the biggest MMA fan, so she did a little research. She came back with a good pick, a very good pick, one that was on my list. And once she told me, I had to move it up all the way to number 2.
Okay.
This is going to be my number 2 pick, Conor McGregor versus Rafael dos Anjos. This was McGregor moving up for the first time to 155. He had just beat Jose Aldo 145.
It was coming on the heels of that win.
Talk shit of all Brazil. Brazilians hated him. So then it only made sense he was going to go to 155, then fight the 155 Brazilian champ. At this point, RDA was that dude.
Yeah.
He had won, I forgot what his streak is, but he was demolishing guys. It was at the height of his career. Dos Anjos still to this day holds a grudge against Conor McGregor. Anytime any news Conor McGregor's in, there's a tweet from
RDA.
Book It. There's RDA talking shit. But he's still calling for the fight too, which I respect.
And I like also.
He's kept it consistent throughout all these years.
He kept the receipts because Conor just had to pull out of the Chandler fight because of a broken pinky toe. RDA broke his foot at least.
Yes.
And Conor was saying, "Oh, you're a bitch because you had to pull out with a broken foot. Put some ice on it. Yada yada yada." That is a great pick.
So I think this would have been a fantastic fight. It would have built on the crazy
kind of nations collide type of fight.
It had just happened. His press conferences with Jose Aldo were crazy. That's like vintage Conor McGregor. I think it would have just continued that. Although he still, had his big fights and still had his big moments. I think it was one that got away. It would have been a great fight to see.
I agree. That's a very good pick. McGregor versus RDA would have gone down in history because of the drama behind the fight. That's kind of what the McGregor-Khabib fight did. The drama buildup was so massive, it held the fight on its own.
Yes. So that was my number 2 pick from my beautiful girlfriend, Clara.
Good pick, Clara.
My number 3 pick. This is one, a lot of people, it may not jump to your mind, but it was a fight that I think people would have loved to see. We've all seen it's a viral clip from The Ultimate Fighter of...
Oh, I didn't think of this.
Of Chael Sonnen telling Wanderlei Silva, "You're too close.
Yeah.
You're too close." And they
Can't
get in a fight. Can't let you get close. They push. They get in a fight there. They were supposed to fight.
Yeah.
They were coaches on opposite sides of The Ultimate Fighter. That fight ended up getting canceled in the UFC. They ended up fighting both in their 40s in Bellator, I believe. Much later. But that fight never happened. It would have been one both at the height of their careers, in their prime. Both guys talk shit. I mean, Chael Sonnen still to this day is one of the best shit talkers.
Yeah.
He's still talking. He's boxing.
Yeah, he just boxed Anderson Silva.
And he's talking shit.
Yeah. And they had like a no knockdown clause in it, so it was just like a, hey,
exhibition. Just a little. But yeah.
The little tit for tat.
Chael Sonnen. And then Wanderlei Silva's, he's a killer.
The axe murderer. He's
literally an axe murderer. I think this would have been one, would have been great to see. The build-up would have continued to be great.
Yep.
A lot of animosity. Most of these fights, they're built on animosity, like the ones that really stick out, and I think this one would have had that.
And that's why you see the McGregor name come up so often.
So much, because he just talks so much shit.
He builds animosity. That's why he's the
popular.
playboy in the UFC. I was gonna say in the NBA.
Yeah. So Chael Sonnen and Wanderlei Silva.
That's a great pick.
My number 3 pick.
My pick for number 3, which I guess I could have ordered this differently now that I'm seeing it, but I'm happy I still got all the picks I want anyway. Poirier versus Diaz.
Yes, that's a good pick.
That
never happened. They both still to this day claim the other one
is a bitch.
Was a bitch and dropped out of the fight.
Right. It was officially canceled due to Poirier's hip injury.
Poirier says he got the hip surgery. He was going to fight, got the hip surgery because Diaz said he wasn't going to fight.
Right.
So he got the hip surgery. Then Diaz is like, all right, I'll fight.
You bitch. Yeah, I get it. Now this
if you want to see something funny, there's a video of Poirier in the hospital, high on pain meds, talking shit to Diaz.
They're recording him, right?
Yeah. It's like, Nate, you're
now
a
this
bitch.
was on the heels of Poirier's surprise win over Eddie Alvarez, so it was going to be a big fight. The two never got to share the octagon before Nick Diaz.
Two legends.
Retired. Two legends.
Nate Diaz,
yeah, not Nick. Nick is coming back, actually.
Nick keeps coming back.
It's
I'm
crazy.
sure Nate will be back.
At some point. But yeah, that would have been a great fight. Poirier versus Diaz would have been legendary. Not to say that Poirier's not in his prime now, but that was when he was like...
But Diaz definitely is not.
He was on his stride up, where he was like on the rocket ship, of stardom. Diaz definitely is not in his prime now. But the two of them fighting at the highest level would have been great.
Yeah, I like that pick.
And my 4th pick, I'm going to go with Masvidal versus Leon Edwards. Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards. That's another one that builds animosity. Jorge Masvidal gets a contract, and he turns on the hate he finds ways to hate you. He gets in your head. He picks at you. He makes you hate him back.
He beat up Leon backstage of a fight. That's what started the little rivalry they had.
It was going to be a good fight. It was in the middle of Masvidal like kind of losing and then retiring because he didn't have the head in the game. But for this fight, I think he'd have showed out. He was a highlight. Actually, he was more of a highlight in the end of his UFC career because he leaned into the villainry of the sport. That's why everybody, really, that's why he rose, at least in the fandom side of it. Yeah. Masvidal versus Edwards, I think that would have been a great fight. So that was my fourth pick.
I like that pick. I love Masvidal. I like Leon Edwards. I think it would have been a great fight, especially Masvidal a couple years ago versus Leon Edwards.
Yeah,
it would have been good.
Absolutely. Like a 2021 Masvidal, that would have been perfect.
Yes. All right, so my fourth pick. This is a fight that recently got canceled last year.
I thought you were going to say last week.
Last year. It's currently rescheduled for later in the year, but I still have doubts that it will actually happen. I'm going to go John Jones, Stipe Miocic, the GOAT versus the heavyweight GOAT. This would be a fight.
Yeah.
In their primes, would have been one of the biggest fights of all time. Even both of them old guys, haven't fought in a while. I think everybody would still like to see this fight. People talk shit. We're like, nobody wants this fight. It's like, everybody would want this fight if it was actually happening.
Dude, John Jones on Twitter, not John Jones, kind of John Jones himself, but the John Jones fans on Twitter and the Stipe fans on Twitter, they are talking about this every single day.
They are. I still have doubts it'll happen. It's been canceled once, but anytime you have the undisputed, in my opinion, GOAT of MMA taking on the heavyweight GOAT at heavyweight, I mean, I gotta see this fight, and it's one that if we don't see, it's been canceled once. If we don't see it, it's going to be something where it's always going to have that what if factor.
Yeah, similar to the the Khabib Ferguson thing.
Yes, everybody's going to be this. In one light, it might be good it never happens. That way we always have the conversation of what would have happened.
Yeah, because could you imagine that if John Jones just walks in and Ngannou's him?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, damn. Turns out there was no chance.
Yeah, or Khabib would have done what he does to everybody to Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, exactly. It almost the allure of it never happening makes it a better fight.
Yes.
Right.
So John Jones, Stipe is my number 4 pick.
And what do you think you're going to take as your final pick in the top canceled fights draft?
My final pick. There's a few ways to go. I liked your Leon Edwards pick, so I'm going to go another Leon Edwards fight. This is one that I think was at least twice, maybe 3 times. Leon Edwards, Khamzat Chimaev.
Is that a Lionel Richie song? Once, twice, 3 times a cancel.
It should be if it's not. Maybe Willie Nelson. But Leon Edwards, he took this fight against Chimaev originally when Chimaev was a big name because he fought like 3 times in like 45 days.
Right.
But he still wasn't like ranked or anything. Leon was ranked.
He was killing people.
Fought in a while and was like, I'll take him. And everybody's like, oh shit. Well, then I believe Khamzat got COVID. Then they were scheduled to refight again. Then Leon got COVID.
Yep.
Then I think they were scheduled again and something happened. But this would have been one, looking back at, even though Chimaev keeps dropping out of fights, when he fights, he puts on shows. We've seen what Leon Edwards does when he fights. I mean, he's the champ.
Yeah.
He head kicks people. I think if these two guys would have fought, it would have been fireworks. It would have been one for the ages. So Leon Edwards, Khamzat Chimaev, my 5th pick.
Yeah, I like that. My last pick is one that it's not even an animosity fight. It's one that will never happen because it's been canceled. There were the rumors.
McGregor Chandler?
No, it was gonna go down in the Coliseum. Musk versus Zuckerberg.
That's actually a really good pick.
That fight, they were on Joe Rogan talking about it.
Well, I think Musk was like, yeah, I'll fight him. And then Zuck was like, no, literally, I have the contract and I'm signing it.
Yeah,
and then Musk was like, fuck.
So, I mean, and then after the fight, Musk defended on Rogan saying like, yeah, I weigh 270 pounds. Like, I'll just lay on him. He was all goofy about it. But
then Zuck's over here training with MMA fighters.
Training with legit MMA fighters, tears his ACL, and then claims they're going to reschedule it after he's all recovered and everything. I don't know. I think that's one of the fights that, like,
I think
allure shit.
Everybody would have watched that fight.
Right. I don't necessarily want to pay to see Tyson versus Paul in a boxing bout.
I do kind of want to see Paul versus Mike Perry, though.
But if I could see Mark Zuckerberg
choking out
Elon Musk? Like, that would be amazing.
I'm signing up.
So that's why it's my fifth pick.
That's a good pick. I wish I would have had that pick.
Just sheer like crazy, like the what if, and I'm almost happier that it's not going to happen because we have the ability to.
No, see, that's one I would like to see happen.
So yeah, that's my pick.
Let's go. Let's recap our top five. My number one of top five canceled fights: Habib Ferguson. Number two, From My Beautiful Girlfriend Clara, RDA, Conor McGregor.
Trademark patent pending.
Trademark patent pending. Number three, Chael Sonnen, Vanderlei Silva. Number four, John Jones, Stipe Miocic. Number five, Leon Edwards, Khamzat Chimaev.
My number one, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Max Holloway. I'm going to just go last names from here on out. Whitaker versus Bisping. Poirier versus Diaz. Masvidal versus Edwards. Musk versus Zuck in the Coliseum.
W.GG, promo code split decision.
10% off your whole order. Thank you.